Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Today in the studio, we have Lachi and Eliza Osborne, two artists collaborating on an initiative put together by Lachi for the purpose of bringing awareness to artists with disabilities. So be sure to check out the links down below. Be sure to check out lachimusic.com and the Foundation.App for the NFTs. This cast is hosted by Simon Bonifant, our Blind Abilities correspondent from Philadelphia. So without further ado, please welcome Lachi, Eliza, and Simon. We hope you enjoy.
I don't know exactly how to describe NFTs, but what I can describe is what we're doing. And myself being an artist, myself having a disability, I thought it would be an amazing situation for two artists of different types to collaborate on a interdisciplinary art project, mixing music with paintings or mixing music with drawing and saying, hey, look, this is an intersection of art with people with intersection with disability. And so I created all of the musical soundscapes that accompany the art for this project, one of which was with Elijah and others with other artists with disabilities. So my role was to create vocal accompanying music to each art piece, kind of based on the art piece / the artist also kind of did it based on my musical soundscape. So it was relatively collaborative. I just wanted to make sure that with NFTs that there was a space for disability art as well.
Hello, everyone on Blind Abilities. This is Simon Bonifant here, and today we have two amazing special guests in the Blind Abilities virtual studio. First, we have Lachi. She is a visually impaired singer and disability activist living in the Big Apple there in New York City. Lachi, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well. It's me, Lachi, she, her, Black Girl Cornrows. Very excited to be here. And I am really jazzed to show everyone on your podcast that New York is just a little better than Philly. I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, we'll let the listeners decide on that one, maybe. And we also have Elijah Osborne, who, like me, is from Philadelphia. And he is an artist. He is a freshman at Cabrini University. He is a visually impaired artist. And we're going to be talking a little bit about a project that Lachi and Elijah did together throughout this interview. So how are you doing today, Elijah?
I'm doing well. And thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, great to have you here. So Lachi, let's start with you. Why don't you talk a little bit about your career, how you got started into singing, and how that's led you to where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Lachi. I identify as legally blind, and I had a lot more vision when I was a lot younger, and now I don't have as much. So I traverse New York City and everywhere else in the world with a glammed out white stick that's usually painted a different color every time to match my outfit, and heels. I'm a recording artist and songwriter who's, had the pleasure of being able to travel the world for my art and be nationally recognized. I am the advocacy chair for the New York arm of the Recording Academy, which puts on the Grammys. And I am the founder and president of RAMP, which stands for Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities. And we are a coalition of top music artists and music professionals that advocate for accessibility within the music industry. We amplify disability culture, and we promote disability inclusion and intersectionality. So as a Black, blind female, those are my three big things that I push for: racial justice, gender justice, but most importantly, disability inclusion. And really, I came to that place in my life when I accepted myself fully for who I was. It took me a long time to get to that point. But once I did, I really began to include it in my music, include it in my fashion style, include it in all aspects of my life. And I am much better for it. I'm super confident. I'm working with some really amazing folks like the Kennedy Center, the White House, again, the Grammys. And I don't know, it wasn't until I accepted myself fully for who I was, including my blindness and my disability, and just wasn't afraid to be that person, that my career really started to blossom. And I really started to see the goals I had when I was a child. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And again, really excited to be here.
That's great. So what started you in music? What about music to you gave you that outlet that you talk about and that confidence to get into your career?
When I was super young, I was super ridiculously shy. Like I didn't say anything to anyone, not at home, not at school. And a lot of it was just because I was different. I was painted a little differently. I wasn't fully blind and I wasn't fully sighted. So no one really knew how to interact with me. I wasn't put in the blind box. I didn't have a dog or a cane. And then I wasn't put in the sighted box. And so it made it difficult for me to have friends. And being an immigrant daughter, it made it so that we were just in a different type of household than everyone else around me. So I was very quiet and very shy. So I outletted a lot of my thoughts, my experiences, and my trials and tribulations, and even my successes to my piano. So I painted, I drew, I song wrote, I played the piano, and I would make little comics and things of that nature. And that was when I was able to understand who I was. I was talking to myself, well, to my piano, about life. And it really helped me grow. And as I got into high school, I started to perform for other people. And I started getting that feedback of, wow, you're actually really good and you're really talented. And that helped me start building confidence because I was good at something. Then I went to college and I was just being called to play the piano at places. And it just continued to boost my confidence and allow me to be who I was and allow me to share my message and experience with people. Music brought me to New York. Music got me all of the friends that I have now. Music got me all the opportunities. So honestly, at this point, I'm really paying homage back to music. My confidence growth and my growth in music really go hand in hand. That's really my musical journey in a nutshell.
Oh, that's terrific. Music can express the things that the words can't a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that you were able to use that as an outlet. What kind of genres do you say is your go-to genre or something that gives you inspiration? Or maybe it's something that you've written?
Currently, I am a dance music vocalist. I work with EDM, I work with trance, I work with house, I work with a lot of the genres within electronic music as a vocalist. And it's really because when coming up, I was pigeonholed into like hip hop and R&B. And I was like, I get it, I'm Black, but this is just not where I fit. And then I tried to do more pop alternative and it just wasn't fitting either. And electronic music really allowed me to just sing whatever I wanted to sing, whether I wanted to be goofy or whether I wanted to talk about something more serious, and allowed me to talk about whatever I wanted with no face, like no racial face to kind of promote behind it. But also when I perform live, I perform acoustically. I love to play the piano and sing. And all of my piano vocal performances are really integrated into my songwriting and my storytelling. So I love to sort of do singer-songwriter live performances juxtaposed to my EDM sets that I put out. This has allowed me to perform at really amazing spaces because not everybody's trying to have an EDM dance set. But
right.
Working with EDM has allowed me to work with some really amazing folks. Like I've done a track with Untitled.App that from the Black Eyed Peas that hopefully will be coming out soon. And I've had the opportunity to work in a writer's camp with like Alicia Keys and to do a bunch of really fun things because of working in that sort of more dancey space. But I will always have a place in my heart for vocal piano.
That's terrific. Who would you say was some of your mentors and what advice did they give you? Because I know that can be applied to our listeners.
One of my biggest inspirations, and I know Lenora's here with Elijah, so I'm not necessarily saying this because of that, but my mom definitely was one of my biggest inspirations and a huge mentor for me. I mean, she's a powerhouse. She allowed me to kind of live my dream and was always very supportive of me. And one of the biggest nodes of advice that she gave me was, I kept getting a lot of no's and a lot of kind of doors closed in my face. And I remember telling her, I don't want to do this anymore. I kind of want to give up and just not do this anymore. And she said, you know what, you're going to get a ton of no's. You're going to get no, but you're going to finally get that one yes. And when you get that yes, go ahead and take it and build. That has always kind of stuck with me. Another big inspiration of mine was Alicia Keys. I used to listen to all of her music all the time. So it is kind of a dream come true that I got to work with her at a writing camp through She Is the Music, which is her organization. And she didn't really give me like direct advice, but just being in her presence and seeing how she acts and seeing how like gorgeous her heart is was really a huge inspiration, like a huge present inspiration for me. And I really want to walk in those kind of shoes. It just kind of shows no matter how big you get, you can always have a gorgeous heart.
Yes. And I like how you talked about giving back through music. I think that's very poignant because you've seen what the music has given you and now you can give that to others as well. So let's talk about your work within the music and disability space. I know you had said when you started your music career, that's how you found your acceptance of your disability. What ideas have you had, and how do you feel that the intersection of disability and music are related to each other? And maybe talk about how you started the RAMP program as well in that accord.
Yeah, for sure. What I say with Ramped is Ramped really is here to elevate and amplify disability culture. And not enough people talk about disability as a culture. Not enough people celebrate disability as a culture. A lot of folks look at it as a way to comply with the ADA or a medical model card. But quite frankly, disability is a culture. A lot of folks with disabilities have to sort of think outside the box and think very creatively, are very determined, and do things a certain way to be able to live up to and survive within a society not built for them. So there is a whole culture around that. And that's what Ramped, Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities, aims to amplify. The reason I really like to try to elevate disability culture through the use of music specifically, as well as other forms of art, but definitely music, is because when we look at hip hop and how it helped amplify Black culture, when we look at country and how it helped amplify rural culture, and when we look at how freeing dance music has helped amplify LGBTQ and gay culture and drag culture, it's a no-brainer that it's going to be through music that we really amplify disability culture to the mainstream and to pop culture. And so through that lens of using music to amplify disability culture, Ramped has really opened up a lot of really cool pathways. I mean, we've spoken to the Grammys to talk about getting visible folks with disabilities presenting at the Grammys or performing at the Grammys or in the Grammys on the board. We've spoken with large organizations like Women in Music or National Independent Venue Association. These are heavy-hitting mainstream organizations that we've been able to speak to because we're coming not from the angle of, hey, here are the ADA requirements you should be filling out. We're saying, hey, we are trying to amplify disability as a culture. 26% of Americans identify or have some form of disability. That's over 61 million Americans, and that's pre-COVID numbers. Why aren't we talking about this? We're not talking about this because it's taboo. We're not talking about this because people get uncomfortable or they don't know what to say. And the way to kind of combat that is to show, hey, it's cool. You're cool. Don't worry about it. We can talk about disability. It's fine. The water's fine. Listen to our messages through music. Look at our messages through art. Feel our messages in our fashion and in the way we express ourselves positively. So that's really what we're trying to cultivate through Ramped. And Ramped is a coalition of accredited music professionals, established producers, and recording artists, engineers who identify as disabled, deaf, having a rare disease, having a neurodiversity, and other forms of differences that make society just a little more difficult to navigate. But we want to celebrate the fact that we are really the black swans that are bringing on the new dawn because we're not being gobbled up by predation.
Yes. I liked how you talked about reaching people through music and then adding in disability. Through music, we relate to the public. I think it's so effective that you talk about that.
Yeah,
we have the music makers, the art makers, and then we have the audience who is just as important.
Yes, there's another aspect to it. I mean, honestly, if I'm playing an empty room, there's a different energy from when I'm playing a full room. The audience brings that energy. We're all performing together. We're enjoying each other together. And so that's why the audience is very important.
So now let's lead into the project that is going to be released soon. It's going to be a digital download NFT. I know that you had cultivated this project, and we're going to hear from Elijah about his part in a minute. Let's just have you introduce the project, how you got it started, and what people can expect.
Sure. It's an NFT collection on a very reputable platform for NFTs, a sort of hoity-toity NFT platform called Foundation. And the name of the collection is Lachi X, Celebrating Disability Culture. And what it is myself collaborating with several artists with varying disabilities who do a different form of art than music. Elijah being one of my collaborators. What they're pieces of art, whether it's painted, whether it's drawn, and it is a moving image set to music. The music is something that I created, a vocal soundscape that is like a binaural soundscape that you can enjoy as you intake the moving art piece. And the reason that I wanted us to do it in this way, to have music and moving art, is because I wanted to celebrate the intersectionality of art. So art can be moving, art can be images, art can be music. And myself being a musician, I thought this would be great. But I also wanted to celebrate the intersectionality of disability. There are so many types. Both Elijah and I are blind in some form, but also in this project, there are artists with other forms of disability, neurodiversity, and other photosensitivities, etc. As well, I wanted to make sure folks knew that disability is in and of itself is art. The way that we created these pieces is we were very collaborative. I created the music and flew it over to the artist who created the artwork, who flew it back over to me, who adjusted the music. And so it was pandemic built and pandemic created because we were far away, but still so close together in the message that we were creating through these art pieces. Last thing I'll say is that with the NFT space being so very, for the lack of a better term, white, cis, straight, male dominated, I wanted to make sure that disability was included, that intersectionality was included, that women were included, and that voice as art was included in the NFT space. And the first piece that we put together was a piece I did with Rachel Gadsden, who is this amazing artist out of Britain. And we ended up selling that piece, which was amazing. And now we're here with this collection that I'm really, really excited about. And I hope that, we're able to really continue this trend and this splash of, hey, disability art can be up on the trends, just like other forms of digital art. And that's why we're here.
Definitely. That's terrific. So let's hear from you, Elijah. Why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your life and talk about how you got into this project and your role in it.
Okay. I'm Elijah Osborne. I've been taking art seriously for about 7 or so years now. My art teacher, Bruce, kind of really sparked something inside of me because the way he introduced art to me was less like in a classroom setting where they lecture you and they talk to you and it's kind of very robotic. He kind of made the classroom like a playground. So I kind of really got to experiment and find where I really fit in with art.
That's great.
And right now I'm a student at Cabrini University. I'm studying psychology. That's my major, and with a minor in criminology. In the future, I hope to be a correctional counselor because I want to help criminals through rehabilitation and creating a life plan.
Yeah, that's terrific. What was the thing that sparked in you the passion for art that you said this is something that you want to do, that you're good at?
I don't know exactly where it came from, but I just felt the need to express myself and to take the ideas in my head and put it on the canvas.
I think like music, art is a way to express things. And it's also interpretive. So people can look at what you have done and interpret it into their own life and how they see it in their own life. And I think that's great too. What is your involvement in this project, Elijah? How were you approached by Lachi and her team? And what was the goal that your art took? Did you have a goal in mind before you started, or was it something that as you started, that was something that you knew was going to be for this project?
I believe my mother was contacted by Lachi's manager with this idea of taking people with disabilities and talents and kind of combining them together to create something beautiful. I thought that was a cool idea. I wasn't really too well versed on NFTs, but just the idea alone kind of sold me on it.
Yeah. So I noticed, Lachi, that you mentioned that the music and the art went together. So did you create the music and then talk to your team of artists to work with the music, or was the art done first and then the music, or how did they intersect in the planning of this process?
Each art piece was kind of done differently. Each collaboration was done slightly differently. Everyone sort of works differently. And I think with Elijah, we put together like a skeletal musical idea. And then Elijah put together some art that we thought was really cool. And then I went back and sort of built more on the musical idea I had originally had. But other pieces kind of went a little differently. And I think it just speaks to how everyone's a little different in their process.
So Elijah, can you talk about the specific art piece that you did for this project. Would you be able to describe it and why you did what you did?
In the end, I ended up creating what is now called Visions of Hope. What I wanted to convey through the piece is that life can be like very congested and very complex, but if you follow the light, you'll get to where you need to go. So I used the mystical forest to kind of represent the complexity and the hard to navigate-ness of life. And the butterflies are the light that would guide you to the glowing waterfall at the end, which is a way more clear place to see and way more spacious and open.
That's great. Is Visions of Hope then being put to music? Is that the title of the song with the art, or is it going to be displayed in a separate form?
I believe they're presented together.
Yeah, they're presented together
Okay, very good.
as sort of like one art form. And again, I'm still on my understanding of NFT's journey, but the piece itself, the NFT itself, like the digital work itself, is the art piece set to music that's up for auction on Foundation. However, let's say, for instance, if Elijah has a physical piece of it, like if any of the artists have a physical piece of it, that itself is not the NFT, right? Or if I have my musical soundscape separate from it, that itself is not the NFT. The actual NFT is the digital artwork that is Elijah's painting with my music under it, as it is shown on the blockchain.
Okay. Lachi, can you describe what is the song like that is with that piece? What does it convey, or what is the music like, the feeling of it?
Again, it's a vocal soundscape. And the way it works is that there are no actual instruments. All of the instruments used are my voice, my vocals. Some of it is like heavily manipulated, but it's all my vocals. And it starts sort of quiet and it continues to build as we add more layers of the vocals. In comes some percussion, vocal percussion, and it just continues to grow in this symphony of voices. And the point of that was sort of following the mindset of, you know, how simple life can really be while still being super duper complex, and just kind of living in that moment and living in that dichotomy, I think is a good word. That's what the music is trying to convey pretty much right alongside the artwork.
So you mentioned the NFTs. Can you give the website as to where people can find this? Where can they purchase it? And when is it going to be available?
For sure. So the actual website is Foundation.App. And honestly, if you just go there and type in Lachi, it'll pop right up. Our collection just went up for auction on March 22nd. And that collection encompasses Elijah and my artwork. It also encompasses Clara Woods, who's another really talented artist, the artwork of another artist who is also very, very good, named Tiffany Antos. So I encourage folks to go to Foundation.App and check it out. Now, one thing that folks do need to recognize, if you're not familiar with NFTs or how to purchase NFTs or how to deal with NFTs, you do deal in Ethereum, which is a type of cryptocurrency. So you deal with cryptocurrency. You can easily form cash or money or whatever in your bank account into cryptocurrency very easily by getting a wallet put together. And once you get your crypto wallet together, you should be able to easily purchase NFTs. It sounds a little overwhelming, but at the end of the day, once you do it, it's very simple. And now you have it done and you can buy, sell, or enjoy NFTs as you please. And there's just so much great art out there. So I encourage you to get into it. But start with our pieces.
Yes. Yeah. Folks can go to Foundation.App. That's a very memorable URL. So that's right. Pretty simple. And Lachi is spelled?
Lachi is Lachi.
Lachi. So if people want to search Lachi, and they can find the collection on there as well. And Lachi, do you have a website that people can go to find your work as well?
For sure. You can check me out. First of all, you can just Google Lachi. I will be all over your Google if you do that. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere.
All right.
You can also find it all in one place at lachimusic.com, LACHIMUSIC.com. And there you can find my music. There you can join my mailing list. There you can do whatever you want, girl. I will be your friend.
All right. And Elijah, do you have a social media presence as well? Can people find your art or anything else that you've done online?
Right now, I only have an Instagram, and it goes by the title straysheep.art. It should pop up if you search that. I hope to expand more to different platforms.
So as we close today, can you give some lasting advice to the listeners, something that has helped you along the way that you'd like to pass on for our listeners?
I think the best advice that I can give, at least right now in this time in my life, is everyone's going to grab you by the shoulders and point you in 10 million different directions. In fact, they're going to point you in 7.64 billion different directions because everybody has their own opinion of what they think you should be doing. But quite frankly, the only opinion that matters is yours. And I know it sounds corny and you've heard it a bunch of times on Sesame Street, but it's so true. And once you start making your own decisions and stop living for other people, you have no idea how freeing that is. In fact, it's the definition of freedom. When you start to live for yourself and make your own decisions, even if it goes against what everybody else says, because you're the only one that's going to understand and know what your true purpose is. So follow your gut and your instinct of what you want for yourself. You really can't go wrong. That's my advice.
Yes, I agree. And I think that advice can also be applied especially to the naysayers, the people that tell you don't do that or you shouldn't do that.
Those people who need that kind of fuel are not worth you giving them the fuel. And quite frankly, they are also the type of people that need to hear this advice too. The reason that they dish that out is because they weren't able to make their own decisions and they followed a path somebody else told them. And so that's the only thing they know. And so I can't even really be that mad at them. They just don't know that they could be free and they see you being free and it makes them a little jealous. Just know that when those naysayers are saying those things to you, it's because they're on their own journey and they haven't gotten to where you are. Just let them figure their own stuff out and you go do you.
That's beautiful. That's positive attitude. I love it. Now let's go to you, Elijah. Do you have any lasting advice that you'd like to share with the listeners today?
I would say that I heavily agree with what Lachi said, but for people with my kind of personality type, I'd say to accept help, even though you should take your journey and define it yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help or accept help when it's offered. I guess that's like the other half of it.
Yeah, I love that.
I would agree. Once you realize that, we can really collaborate and work together because we can do a lot with teamwork. So that's great. Great advice from you both. Thank you, Lachi and Elijah, for coming on to Blind Abilities today. We're really happy that we had the opportunity to speak with you. To all their listeners, go to www.Foundation.App, check out the NFT, look at the art, listen to the music, and check out Lachi and Elijah's other creations as well. And we thank you very much for your time.
Awesome.
Take care. All right.
See ya.
A big shout out to Chi Chow for his beautiful music. You can follow Chi Chow on Twitter at El Chi Chow. Chi Chow. Chi Chow.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the realities of blind abilities.
The realities of blind
abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.